What if everything you've been taught to believe about God and Jesus is merely a meticulously crafted illusion? What if the emptiness you feel inside isn't a spiritual weakness, but a profound sign that your true self is striving to awaken? You've been conditioned to worship an external image, but what if beneath that lies a deep, fundamental loss of connection with your very own being? Listen on to discover how you can reclaim your inherent power and awaken the living Christ within. Look into the dark depths of your soul, for there, in the most hidden corners, lies an unbearable emptiness that you may have felt for years, trying to fill it with endless searches outside yourself. You have probably been told throughout your life that this gaping abyss is a sign of some innate imperfection or even divine punishment, forcing you to seek redemption in rituals and dogmas that in truth only led you further away from the true nature of your being. For years, you worshipped an image created by human hands, an image that was designed not to elevate you to the divine, but to keep you in perpetual humility and submission, far from your own inner spark. Imagine a world where the truth about the great teacher was cunningly distorted, turned into a convenient tool for controlling the minds of millions, and his original message, full of liberation and awakening, was buried under layers of centuries-old delusions. You were indoctrinated with the image of a suffering martyr, crucified on a cross, whose pain was supposed to be an eternal reminder of your own sinfulness and unworthiness, thereby severing you from the source of your own power and divinity. Is it not strange that the great teaching of love and forgiveness turned into a system based on the fear of hellfire and a sense of guilt that poisons every step, every breath you take? Is it not absurd to believe that an omnipotent God needs your endless worship and abasement, when deep down you feel that the source of light is not somewhere far away, but right here within you? The emptiness you feel is not, in fact, a consequence of your weakness or sinfulness. No, it is the cry of your own soul, desperately striving to break through the veil of oblivion to remind you of your original divine nature. This is not the pain of punishment, but merely an echo of a long-forgotten truth that is trying to surface in your consciousness, demanding recognition and awakening. You were taught to seek fullness in external rites, in other people's words, in other people's idols, but it could never be found there, because true fulfillment comes only from within, from returning to your true self, to that divine source that was deliberately hidden from you. This system, carefully constructed by generations of fear and manipulation, did not give you God. It only gave you an illusion which, like a mirage in the desert, only intensified your thirst without giving you a single sip of living water. It is time to realize that your pain and your suffering are a direct consequence of this artificially created reality, which deprived you not only of your own power, but also of the possibility of direct communion with the divine. Look deeper into those unseen threads that, from birth, were woven into the fabric of your consciousness, creating a web of fear and guilt under the guise of holiness. You were indoctrinated with the idea that your very existence, every thought, every feeling, every impulse of your body is a potential source of sin, and therefore, a reason for eternal torment. Under the cloak of true spirituality, you were methodically instilled with an aversion to your own soul, to its boundless capacity to create and love, to its intuitive wisdom. You were taught to fear your body, that sacred temple in which the spark of the divine resides, convincing you of its depravity and baseness, thereby destroying your innate wholeness and harmony. Obedience, blind adherence to external directives, and unquestioning acceptance of imposed dogmas were presented as the highest manifestation of love for God, while any doubt, any critical thinking, any aspiration for personal knowledge was declared a rebellion against the higher will, a path leading into the abyss of despair. This was not spiritual development, but a meticulously planned psychological programming designed to strip you of internal support and make you dependent on external authorities. You were systematically made to feel insignificant, unworthy of divine love. Tiny grains of sand in a vast and terrifying world where only the chosen few have the right to salvation, and you must merely humbly await your fate. It is in this constant deformation of self-perception that the main tragedy lies, for it deprives you not only of the right to happiness, but also of self-determination, of a true understanding of your divine essence. This system, built on the foundation of fear and total control, methodically poisoned your thoughts, your feelings, your self-belief, replacing it with the illusion of external righteousness. You were destined to forever feel small and unworthy, needing constant mediation between you and the divine, be it a priest, a ritual, or an external image. Understand that this is not your fault. It is the result of centuries of manipulation aimed at keeping humanity in a state of spiritual slumber, while the true path to liberation lies through the awakening of inner power and the realization of your own divine nature. The time has come to cast off the chains of fear and guilt, to see that you always have been and remain a manifestation of the divine, capable of direct contact with your source. Consider how deeply and artfully the very name of the one who brought the light of awakening to earth was distorted, how its true sound and sacred meaning were altered to turn you away from the direct path to the divine. The true name of this great teacher is Yeshua, not the familiar Jesus, and within each syllable of Yeshua lay a vibration capable of awakening the dormant spark of the divine in anyone who spoke it with an open heart. This is not merely a linguistic subtlety. It is a deliberate substitution designed to strip the name of its primordial power, making the figure of Christ distant, inaccessible, transforming him from a guide to inner freedom into an object of worship, elevated to an unattainable pedestal. The name was not changed by chance, but with the intent of making Christ an obedient symbol of a system capable of controlling the masses. From a living, breathing teacher who called for deep inner work, he was transformed into a dead idol to be mindlessly worshipped, ignoring his true messages of personal transformation and direct connection with the source. The original teachings of Yeshua did not call for blind veneration. They did not require the building of external temples or the performance of complex rituals. On the contrary, they pointed to the fact that the kingdom of God is within you, that every person is a bearer of the divine spark and capable of direct contact with their Creator without intermediaries. The authentic message of Yeshua was about awakening the inner light, about unfolding your own divine potential, about the truth that you are not merely servants of God, but His children, equal in your nature, and entitled to a direct inheritance of the kingdom. Ecclesiastical institutions, however, chose to substitute this profound truth with external rituals, dogmas, and hierarchy, transforming a great teaching into a cult based on fear and submission. You were taught to worship the crucifixion, a symbol of suffering and death, instead of being taught resurrection, life, and awakening, which is the true meaning of Christ's message. This substitution deprived you of access to the very source of your power, severing you from a direct understanding that the true Christ is not an external God, but a state of consciousness that everyone can achieve. You were deprived of the opportunity to realize that the path to God lies not through the words of others, but through your own heart, and this stripped you of your divine right to direct knowledge. Allow yourself to deeply grasp one of the greatest truths proclaimed by the one you've come to call Jesus, but whose authentic name, Yeshua, sounds like a call to awaken the inner divine spark. The kingdom of God is within each of you. This is not a metaphor. It is not a distant promise of a heavenly life after death. It is a direct and undeniable reality that has been deliberately hidden from you for centuries to deprive you of your true power. Yeshua did not come to demand blind worship of his person or the erection of monumental stone temples. His true message was a call to follow him not as an external idol, but as an example, a path that leads to the unfolding of one's own inner potential and direct communion with the source of all being. Imagine how greatly these words were distorted by those who sought power and control, transforming this call to inner transformation into a demand for external submission. Ecclesiastical institutions, instead of being guides to your own divinity, turned Christ into an unattainable object of worship, an external authority that exists outside of you, thereby severing you from the direct path to the divine. You were led to believe that only through the mediation of priests, through the performance of rituals and the recitation of prayers directed at an external image, could you approach God. But is it not absurd when Yeshua himself clearly indicated that the key to the divine is already in your hands, deep within your being? This strategy of cutting you off from the direct path was fundamental to maintaining the system of control. For if every person realizes their inner divinity and their ability to directly dialogue with the source, then the need for external intermediaries naturally disappears. That is precisely why the teachings of Yeshua were systematically rewritten, censored, and interpreted in such a way that you would constantly feel separated from God, in need of salvation from outside. You were deprived of the most important thing, the realization that you are already a part of the divine, that you are not just created in his image and likeness, but you yourselves carry within you the spark of the Creator. The time has come to awaken from this illusion and remember that the path to God lies not through external walls and foreign dogmas, but through a deep immersion into your own heart, where Christ awaits his resurrection in your consciousness. This is the path to true freedom and the attainment of your own inalienable divine nature. Understand deeply that the entire structure of the so-called church, this colossal institution built over centuries, rests on three pillars that ruthlessly poison your soul: fear, guilt, and total alienation from your own body. You were taught that your body, this incredible, exquisitely fine instrument created for perceiving the divine and manifesting his energy on earth, is a source of sin, base desires, and constant temptation. This was one of the most sophisticated and destructive lies, because your body is a sacred temple of the Spirit, a vessel through which you can directly feel the presence of the divine, experience the ecstasy of life, and manifest your true nature. The rejection of your own body led to the loss of your wholeness, to a split between soul and flesh, to a feeling of eternal conflict within yourself. This system did not demonize the physical by chance, for your power lies within it. If you understood that every hair on your body, every touch, every breath could become an act of deep spiritual connection, then the need for their mediation and their control would vanish. Awakened people, those who dare to feel, to think, and to connect with their inner Christ through their own body and soul, represent a direct and unequivocal threat to their carefully constructed empire. That is why for centuries and decades you have been held captive by mental constructs, convinced that salvation lies outside of you, and that you yourselves are unworthy and depraved. The task of this system was utterly simple and at the same time monstrous: to make you forget your true, original divinity, to forget that you are already perfect, complete, and carry within you the spark of the Creator. Think about how cleverly this trap was set. It didn't just restrict your actions. It penetrated the very depths of your consciousness, altering your perception of yourself and the world. You were deprived not only of freedom of choice, but also of the very knowledge of the possibility of this freedom. They wanted you to believe that your sexuality is a vice, your intuitive feelings are devilish temptations, and your capacity for joy and bliss is a sin. This was done so that you could never feel the power hidden within you, so that you would always feel dependent on external sanction, on external approval, and external rules. The time has come to break these chains and realize that your true power lies precisely where they tried to suppress it: in your body, in your soul, in your capacity for unconditional love, and for direct, unmediated communication with the divine. Listen to the silent whisper of your body, for it is within it, in every nerve ending, in every breath, in every heartbeat, that the true path to authentic spiritual awakening is hidden. You were deliberately taught to ignore, or even worse, to fear these precious sensations, these internal responses that are nothing less than a direct channel of communication with your deep intuition and with the divine itself. You were instilled with the belief that spirituality is something ephemeral, detached from the physical, existing only in the realm of speculative dogmas and abstract prayers. But the truth is that your body is not merely a biological machine. It is an energy conductor, a sensitive antenna, capable of receiving and deciphering the vibrations of higher dimensions, if only you allow yourself to tune into this wave. In the depths of your tissues, in every fiber of your being, an ancient memory of the God within you is stored, of your unbreakable connection with the source of all existence. This memory is not written in books or stone tablets. It lives in your cells, in your DNA, awaiting its awakening. When you begin to consciously pay attention to your bodily sensations, when you allow yourself to feel rather than suppress, you begin to restore this lost connection. Every breath filled with awareness, every touch imbued with attention, becomes an act of sacred return to yourself. These are not merely physical exercises or meditations. This is a path to communion with the living divine that manifests through your own vitality. You were deprived of this knowledge, because the knowledge of your bodily divinity gives you incredible power, making you independent of external intermediaries. To feel sacred again, to realize that your sexuality, your desires, your physical manifestations are not sinful, but merely part of your divine expression, is the first and boldest step towards complete liberation. By letting go of imposed limitations and condemnations, you open the floodgates for the flow of divine energy that has always been present within you, but was blocked by fear and guilt. Awakening through the body means not only realizing its beauty and functionality, but also understanding it as a sacred altar on which the constant mystery of life and creation takes place. It is here, in the depths of your being, not in distant churches, that the gateway to the true Christ is found, to that unconditional love and boundless wisdom that awaits your return to wholeness. Immerse yourself in the silent annals of history, for it is there, beneath the weight of centuries of deliberate oblivion, that forgotten wisdom is hidden, capable of completely overturning your perception of Yeshua's true message and the path to the divine. You were taught only carefully selected fragments, only those scriptures that conveniently fit into the created system of control, while the true teachings of Yeshua were either ruthlessly removed from canonical texts or completely forbidden, declared heresy, and hidden from the eyes of believers. These texts, such as the Gospel of Thomas or the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, were not accidentally excluded from official history. They carried within them a profound truth about inner transformation, about the direct experience of the divine within each person, and not about external submission to authorities. Imagine that the Gospel of Thomas begins not with a birth or miracles, but with the direct, striking words of Yeshua. Whoever finds the interpretation of these words will not taste death. This is not a call to blind faith, but a direct instruction on the necessity of inner knowledge, of deep comprehension, which leads to the immortality of consciousness. It contains sayings that clearly point to the kingdom of God within you, to the divine spark that slumbers in every person, awaiting its awakening. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene, in turn, raises profound questions about the role of the feminine principle in the spiritual path, about the importance of intuition and inner knowledge, contrasting them with the purely rational, masculine approach that dominated the patriarchal structure of the church. These hidden teachings posed a direct threat to the Roman Empire and to the nascent patriarchal church hierarchy, as they asserted that every person has direct access to the divine without the need for intermediaries, without a complex system of rituals and priests. If people had realized that they did not need external saviors, that salvation lay in their own awakened consciousness, all power and control would have collapsed overnight. You were deprived of access to this profound truth that could have freed you from the chains of fear and guilt, that would have given you knowledge of your own divine nature. But now, in this era of awakening, these ancient texts are surfacing again, calling you to remember the wisdom that was taken from you, and that the true path to Christ lies through your own knowledge and inner transformation, and not through adherence to foreign dogmas. Understand deeply, you are not broken, and you never have been. Your true self does not need fixing or salvation from outside. It is merely buried beneath layers of centuries-old trauma and masterfully imposed lies, like a precious treasure hidden beneath the rubble of an ancient building. What you call resurrection is not a mythical event that happened 2,000 years ago to someone else, but a constant, living process unfolding right now within you. It is not a sudden miracle, but a continuous awakening, an unfolding of your own inherent divinity. Every time you realize a new lie you believed, every time you let go of an old fear or an imposed sense of guilt, you perform an act of inner resurrection. Imagine that Christ is not an external God to be worshipped, but an archetype of divine consciousness living deep within your soul. This is not a historical figure, but a state of being, a state of unconditional love, wisdom, and compassion that is your inherent right. Every realization, every step on the path of self-knowledge, every act of true, unconditional love for yourself and for the world around you. This is nothing less than the ascension of Christ within you, his new birth in your awakened consciousness. It is a slow but steady ascent from the shadows of oblivion to the radiance of your true nature. You are not seeking Christ somewhere far away. You are finding him by revealing him within yourself, allowing his light to illuminate the darkest corners of your soul. This path is the path of true self-knowledge and absolute liberation. It requires courage to face your shadows, to let go of old attachments, and to dismantle the mental constructs that held you captive. But the reward is immeasurable. You gain not only peace and tranquility, but also the boundless power of the Creator that was always yours, but was blocked by illusions. The resurrection of Christ within you means the awakening of your own divine will, your ability to create your reality, your freedom from external limitations. The time has come to realize that you are a living embodiment of the divine, and that true salvation lies not in being saved by someone else, but in awakening to your own original sanctity. Look around you, for before your very eyes, at this pivotal moment in history, a completely new generation is emerging, a generation that refuses to be subjugated by old systems of control and outdated dogmas. These souls do not seek God within dusty church walls or in others' sermons. They seek him within themselves, in the depths of their hearts, in every breath, in every manifestation of life. They are not afraid of true knowledge. They do not fear questioning authorities, and they do not tremble before the inner light that has been so long suppressed in humanity. These people, like ancient prophets reborn in a new era, carry within them a powerful vibration of awakening, capable of shattering centuries-old chains of illusion. This generation, unsubordinated to the system, is not so because it openly rebels against it, but because it simply outgrows it, discovering its irrelevance and emptiness. They embody Christ not through blind faith in dogmas, but through being, through their presence, through their awareness, through the unconditional love they begin to radiate from within. For them, Christ is not an external savior, but a state of consciousness they strive for, manifesting it in every action, in every interaction with the world. They do not seek external approval or external validation of their spirituality. Their authority lies deep within, in their own experience and knowledge. Their emergence is both a challenge and a hope. A challenge to those who cling to old structures, for their world is crumbling before their eyes, stripping them of power, and a hope for millions of souls who still wander in labyrinths of fear and guilt, but are beginning to feel this new, fresh wind of change. These people, like lighthouses in a turbulent ocean, show that true spirituality is not a religion, but a living, dynamic process of self-knowledge and transformation. By their example, they demonstrate that Christ did not die on the cross, but resurrects in every awakened heart, becoming a source of boundless power and unconditional love. Their existence is irrefutable proof that humanity is capable of moving beyond imposed limitations and returning to its true, divine nature. Before you unfolds not just a new chapter of life, but an entire era permeated with the possibility of the deepest transformation, and every step you take on this path will be an act of unprecedented freedom. Now, at this fateful moment, the most important choice stands before your soul: to remain in the comfortable, yet suffocating illusion of old dogmas and imposed fears, continuing to seek answers in an external world that will never provide true satisfaction, or to embark on your own journey back to yourself, to your true, divine essence, to the source of boundless wisdom and power that always resides within you. This is not merely a choice of faith. It is a choice for your own future, your dignity, and your freedom. Allow yourself to realize that awakening is not an act of loneliness or isolation, as they tried to instill in you, making you feel like a stranger in a world seeking unconventional paths. On the contrary, it is the finding of a true community, a deep connection with like-minded individuals, those souls who, like you, are tired of false promises and strive for authentic truth. When you dare to reveal your inner light, you begin to attract those who vibrate at the same frequency, creating a new field of consciousness where there is no room for fear and judgment, but only unconditional love and mutual support. This is the beginning of a new, living path that is not limited by the confines of any religion or doctrine, but is permeated with the pure energy of divine presence. Your inner Christ is not asleep. He awaits your courage to awaken, to release the chains of the past, and to allow his light to fully manifest in your life. He awaits your conscious decision, your deep intention to become a living manifestation of the divine on earth. This is not a call to renounce the world, but on the contrary, to fully immerse yourself in it with a new, awakened awareness. Every step you take, every action, every word spoken from the depths of your heart will carry this healing, transforming energy that can change not only your life, but also the world around you.